Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for round 2, baby. I've got a bunch more tips and techniques that I've figured out since my last video, and I originally was planning on keeping them to myself, but you know I couldn't do that to the culture, man. So you guys have given me so much positive feedback on my last video. Like, I think it's almost up to 2,000 views now, which I know by most metrics isn't a lot, but it's a lot for me. So I've just been ecstatic lately. And to those of you guys that use my Fortnite supported creator code, HK21 by the way, thank you guys especially. Like, I just left Starbucks, and for the first time ever, I was able to afford a venti sized drink. So there's some real life-changing shit happening around here. So thank you guys especially. And one last thing, to this day, there are still no YouTube channels that I have found that are devoted to Fortnite Creative Mode, and it is a fucking travesty for Fortnite creative fiends like myself. So I'm going to take it upon myself and devote this entire channel to Creative Mode. So that'll probably include more tutorials. You know, maybe we can review your guys' maps or whatever. If I'm being honest, I don't totally know the direction that I want to go, but I do know that I want to devote this channel to creative mode. So if you're interested, please sub, and without further ado, let's just hop right into this bitch. Alright, so first things first, because the techniques that I figured out over the past month or so are just so random and unrelated to each other, it was nearly impossible for me to figure out like a coherent way to organize this video. And for that reason, in the description of the video, I included a timestamp to each individual trick that I cover. So there's going to be a lack of organization in this video, and we're just going to start with a trick at random. And the first thing that I want to cover is phasing through objects. And probably the best example of this is with the visualizer gallery right here. So if you throw that down and then turn off visualization, you get these almost identical sets of blocks here. And on the left side, it's just an ordinary object. But on the right side, you actually have blocks which, once you walk up to them, you actually phase through, even though it doesn't look that way. And this is something which probably would best be suited for like escape rooms and puzzle maps, because who the fuck's gonna think that you can just walk through an object? And it's something that I haven't seen other people utilize. And I threw together a little demonstration of objects you can phase through, so let's just go check that out real quick. Alright, here we are trapped inside of my super basic puzzle room, so don't judge me, alright? This is not my specialty. It's just for the sake of example. So as you can see, there's one block which is outlined in white, and it's kind of a giveaway, but I guess it's better that way, just to help people figure out where they need to go. So everything's solid, and then you walk up to this white block and you phase through. And like I said before, these blocks are not the only things that can be phased through. So for instance, these carpets right here, it's solid until you get to this block, which I didn't put anything underneath, and you fall right through. And in addition to like rugs and the music gallery thing, I noticed that actually most objects, when you resize them, it really messes with their hitboxes. So I found that these rocks, for instance, once you make them huge, you're able to just jump right through the middle for some reason. I don't know why, but it is what it is. And I found that a couple other objects have weird hitboxes when you make them bigger. I mean, I'm sure you guys can find plenty more examples, but it's a pretty unique way to give people access to spots where they wouldn't immediately think that they have access to. So yeah, moving on. Alright, so this is another one for you escape room lovers out there, so shout out to you guys. So all around us, you have unbreakable walls, floors, and seemingly no way to get out of the room. Until you turn to this big meanie chest behind us and open it up and get mounted turrets. And one thing about the turrets is that once you place them down, it actually becomes a destructible object. So this is a really unique way to break out of the room. And again, something that I really haven't seen other people implement into their maps. And it's not immediately obvious. I mean, most people just have, you know, jump puzzles or whatever to get out, but this is something that I think would be pretty cool if you integrated in artfully. And another thing about the turrets is that you can actually avoid fall damage if you jump down and hop in the turret right before you hit the ground. So let's say you wanted to make level 2 like way down there, and you didn't want to make it so obvious as having like a bounce pad or a jump pad or whatever. Well, you just throw a turret down there, and to somebody who is observant, they would know that you can jump down and and they can jump down and hop in the turret. And just like that, we have avoided the fall damage and are out of the room. First try. Not sure why that's there. In addition to avoiding fall damage with turrets, the same also applies with vehicles and the little shock barrier things. So you don't even have to jump in the vehicle, you just have to land on it and you avoid fall damage. And the same thing applies for the little barriers. As long as you hit the barrier, I mean, you take a little bit of damage, but you bounce right off and it's perfectly fine. So those are also sneaky alternatives for getting out of an escape room. But I mean, let's be real, the turret is definitely the swaggiest because it requires a little bit of finesse. Finesse which I most definitely had and got my first try. So the next thing that we're going to be looking at is the new elimination zones and barrier zones that they put in the game. So as it currently stands, it actually matters what type of material you put these zones on. So on the right side over here, we have stuff from the indestructible prefab, and then on the left side, we have just regular wood. And as you can see with the wood, for the elimination zone, you can just shoot it out as normal, and then you're free to pass through that area. With the barrier zone, however, not only does it block movement, but it also blocks shots. So no, that's not the Nerf Deagle, RIP my baby. But if you get underneath it, you can actually blow out the bottom, and then no more barrier zone. With the indestructible prefab though, obviously, you know, no amount of shooting is gonna break those bad boys. So I actually threw together another puzzle map demonstration. God, I know, so many freaking puzzles. So let's check that out real quick and how this is useful information. Alright, so here we are trapped inside of one of my legendarily shitty escape rooms. So we're gonna head upstairs, and what do you know, we are blocked off by a barrier zone and can't shoot it out. And we need to get to level 2. I wonder what we're gonna do. So we head back down to the bottom, and we look up to the barrier zone, and ayo, it's a callback. Translucent blocks. So we're gonna shoot through those and bust out the barrier zone and head back up top. And what do you know? We are able to pass through freely. And as a little bonus tip, I want to show you guys how to clear somebody's inventory. So let's say you don't want the player to take the Deagle into weapon or level 2, or any weapon for that matter. So we have this checkpoint spawner right here, and as you can see, the other side of it is beyond these impassable hedges right here. So what we're going to do is have the person step on the point and it is activated, and then we are going to kill them in the trap. And as you can see, the Deagle is dropped, and we are now in level 2 without the item. So if you guys need to clear someone's inventory of like impulse grenades or Deagles or whatever, yeah, that's another way to work around that. That way people aren't, you know, busting out the levels if you give them like balloons or some shit. Alright, so our final escape room innovation here involves C4. So an interesting thing that I found about C4 is that if you throw it down prior to starting the game, the C4 will actually stay there for when the game actually starts. So then we're just going to throw the trigger into the item spawner, and we're going to start the game. And as you'll be able to see, the C4 will be able to be triggered once we pick it up from the item spawner. So let's say you do something like this where, you know, there's no way to pass through the barrier and the trap down there is going to obviously kill you. So I'm just going to flex on y'all and use all these other tricks that we talked about as a way to get through this level. So like I said, I'm freaking sick of puzzle games just only being jump challenges. We're out here innovating. So we're gonna hop through the invisible wall, trigger that C4, hop back up through the hole that we broke out, and now, as you can see, we have a way to the next level. Bam! Then we're gonna clear our inventory, and we have just developed a really unique puzzle that isn't just jump challenges. So, yeah, that's gonna be the last one for the you know, escape room lovers out there. Like I said, I'm sure there's a million other ways that you can use these techniques. This is just the way that I you know, imagine them being used as with escape rooms primarily. Yeah, moving on to some more general techniques. Alright, so the next thing I want to talk about is how to get walls that are off the grid system. And this one was a little bit tricky for me to figure out, but ultimately I did find 2 workarounds for this. One is a lot more complicated, but you can achieve more with it, and the other is a much simpler way to do it, but you're a little bit limited. So guess which one I use the most? But for the complicated one, for you detail-oriented people out there, if you grab any of these wall galleries and throw them down, as you can see, they're actually off the grid system, so you get walls that kind of intersect with one another. But the only problem with that is that once you try to copy them, they snap back onto the grid system. So you would have to be really particular about where you throw down the gallery in order to get the wall that you're looking for in some place that's off the grid. So like I said, this is good for you detail-oriented people out there, but I do have an easier way to do this. So in this Polar Peak prefab right here, there's actually one wall that for some reason is not a part of the grid system, and it's behind the throne. It's this wood wall right here. So if we head outside real quick, as you can see, it's not on the grid system, which is pretty weird. Very random, probably a mistake, honestly. So that's the back side, it's brick, front side's wood. Like I said though, this is the only wall that I've figured out that you can do this with, so you are limited. But I guess if you got really good at throwing down the galleries to the point where you can get walls exactly where you wanted them, you could use the more complicated way, and then you would have the freedom to do it with any other wall. So that's just 2 workarounds that I've found. I'll try to look for more, but in the meantime, that's your way of getting walls that are off the grid. Alright, and for our final little tip today, it's just the most generic tip, so I thought I would include it at the end because it really applies to every map that you can make, and that's just to remember that you can put objects inside of other objects. So if you look at this computer over here, I threw some fire, like torches, inside of the computer, so it looks like maybe that it's on fire. As you can see, it's all busted up. And then back behind it, we have some of those electrical barrier blocks, so you get that nice little electric crackling, both visually and auditory. Same thing over here, we got some lights that we threw on, some fire. Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, really the sky's the limit. You can get as creative as you want as putting, when it comes to putting objects inside of other stuff. We got some, you know, just random lights, throw them on there. Throw some lights in front of some cars. Some of those like really sweet glowing blocks outside, like maybe it's you know, twilight out there or some nuclear fallout or something. I don't know, but it's just something that really makes the details of the map pop, and you could really get super creative with how you want to combine objects together, especially now that you can resize stuff and like grow lights to be enormous, or I mean, it even goes beyond lights too. You can mix stuff together, and that's how people make like really cool rock caverns and stuff like that. It's just pushing a bunch of stuff together with collision turned off and creating some really cool stuff. So yeah, just a kind of a general tip to round stuff out. And yeah, I think that's it. And that is going to do it, my friends. This is definitely a longer video than my last one, but you know, it takes some time to cram all that knowledge into one video. Like I said before, if you learned anything, please use my supported creator code HK21. If you're interested in more Fortnite creative content, please sub to the channel. As I said in my last video, it's all about the e-girls, man. I'm trying to get enough subs to talk to Valkyrae, so help a brother out. No, I'm playing. I mean, I'm completely serious, but I'm also playing. So thank you guys for watching. Oh, I have another YouTube channel too. I'll link it in the description. It's definitely not focused on creative content. It's just more me talking about some random shit. So sub to that one if you're interested. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.